Well, I think you're behind if you don't have a DNA team, a data and analytics team. I mean, those are the buzzwords and they're the future. Vendors that have understand that art and that dance around what it means to be a true community and partner is so appreciated.
VOX Wins. I'm not sure I could even get a ticket to some of the major retail events our next guest has spoken at or turned down. Today, we're joined by an icon in the space, Kate Guenther, former VP of Concierge and Customer Experience at Aritzia, formerly with Tommy Bahama and Nordstrom. Kate, I sometimes called myself a full-stack generalist in my career, but then I met you and saw that this becomes an entirely different beast at this level of retail. My conversations with retail leaders point to the same direction. Some time ago, CX evolved past a scope limited to call centers, NPS, and CSAT scores. So I want to start with something we've described as the full enterprise approach to CX leadership. Can you break down what that means and how you've seen it evolve?
Nice to see you, Richard. I love the artwork in the background. I'm an enthusiast as well. You know, the full enterprise to me is across all areas of the business. So it isn't just what comes into the contact center space as customer experience, but it's our product team, the marketing team, eCommerce, technology, and working cross-functionally together and really truly understanding across all of those digital touch points what the pain points are and what we're doing really well as a company. And successful in the full enterprise. And really, you know, I found my last job, the manufacturing team was the team that I got the most out of just because we got famous really fast, right? And so we had a lot to talk about. People wanted our product.
Yeah. No better way to form those alliances than shared wins and ultimately business success, right? Money curing all that ails. So then with so many channels to resolve and make sense of and to speak the same language to all these different people you're interacting with, what has been your approach to, say, data integration, which is how modernly we are talking to all these different teams? Because I've heard many leaders have struggled to create a unified view when signals are coming from so many of these sources.
Well, I think you're behind if you don't have a DNA team, a data and analytics team. I mean, those are the buzzwords and they're the future and the past and the present. So, you know, I think forever, if your data isn't clean and your data isn't organized, it'll be forever a problem to funnel that into what is exactly happening with your company across all the touch points. And, you know, I think that with our direct to consumer companies with Omnichannel, there's so many different data points. So we've got SMS, live chat, phone, email, and all of that can be recorded, right? You can capture all of that because you've got it recorded with voice or you've got it in print somewhere. You can't put a microphone on someone in a brick and mortar store and follow them around and understand what those pain points are. That's very difficult to solve. So there's a heavy reliance on those other data points that actually exist without that microphone attached to that individual in your brick and mortar store. And really that secret sauce is how you funnel all of that and you can extract some of the pain points that we're experiencing and or celebrate the things that we did really well.
So I'd imagine there are often competing priorities when it comes to addressing product issues versus marketing initiatives, or you're agreeing on that threshold for escalation versus, okay, we'll just continue to monitor something. How should leaders navigate some of those cross-functional decisions you make as a group, especially if you are sitting there triaging as that data and CRM owner?
You know, there's a real challenge of bringing the limited data to the table. So, you know, let's use an example. You know, you've got the collar of the shirt falling off. And you've only got 3 examples of it. But you know that the marketing team might be taking that and using this particular top as their biggest next marketing campaign for their product. And it's really important that you can report, hey, the collar might be falling off some of these shirts. And I'm not certain we should probably be encouraging people to buy these. So, you know, you've got to make sure that you've got an actionable triage campaign or operation so you can make sure that that is smooth and quick and you've engaged the right people. I think what's stressful too is, you know, you want credibility, you want to build that. And so you don't want to say, well, I heard 3 times the collar's falling off. And then people say, well, that's not enough. You know, can you quantify that? Because everyone should have the data to support it. But 3 is enough for me to say, I think we need to go look at this quality issue.
And I'd imagine that those types of threshold have to come from experience, have to sort of realizing what is signal, what is noise, or I guess being able to understand the manufacturing part. Like if there's a supply chain that you think is a little bit stronger for a brand you're at. Maybe there might be the feeling you can relax a little bit or know that QA is taken care of and you don't need to, I don't know, overly anticipate or be in this constant high cortisol level when you see one post go viral and be like, oh my God, I need to call that all company, all hands immediately.
Well, what's super frustrating too is you've got this hourly workforce that's touching the client the closest, and you'll go to them and say, hey, are the colors falling off this shirt? Oh yeah, I've had like 4 calls about that today. So, it's igniting that culture of accountability and love for your product to make sure that we're giving quality, not only product, but quality service. And that's part of the service that we provide.
What I love about these conversations is that anytime I have a leader talking tactics and strategy at the level of these $1 million brands, the conversation always comes to strengths as a people leader and being able to turn even the sales associates, and I was one. It is nice to now be on this side and to realize how valued my perspective was. And I don't know, it brings me closer, maybe not so to the brand as a champion, but as a teammate. And that's how I really rally about the brand and that shared experience. So why wouldn't you want to help another team member? A strong leader, have many years in the field, but you need to be a great human being too. So hats off to you, Kate. Thanks for that.
Of course.
Now, after a little riffing, you ready for some hot takes? Because, Kate, you have been deep in apparel operations for several storied brands. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask to hear a hot take or maybe a bold prediction you have about the future of customer experience that might surprise some of your industry peers.
Well, I don't know. I just came back from a conference and I feel like some of my industry peers understand this. I mean, we've got this high tech and high touch environment. We're talking about AI. That's the buzzword, right? And I think that in our environment, absolutely AI will be a game changer. It will take away the monotonous tasks that the frontline is working on so they can truly take care of, I'm going to keep going back to that collar falling off. They can take action. They feel like I don't have to come to them and say, hey, is the collar falling off the shirt? They have the energy and time and passion to make it really this full circle moment for the company and the client. And they're servicing them in a way that, is meaningful and, impactful. That is where we're going to see that moment come full circle, because people want to be serviced still. They still want to be serviced. They don't want to talk to a robot, but they also want to have a balance of quick service, right? So where's my order? That we can do that quickly, but my collar's falling off and I've got a hot date tonight. That we probably can't do through a bot and service quickly. And maybe we've determined as a brand that that's the high quality touch that we want to provide for them.
Looking at the AI, maybe from a different perspective, what do you think could be an underrated factor that you think CX leaders are overlooking, perhaps because they're looking a little bit too much of their attention to AI?
I think that we have to give our frontline teams empowerment. You've got to weigh the situations that are in front of you. Yes, you have policy and procedures, but I could be a longstanding client that has had my first return and it's beyond the 30-day window, let's just say, right? You've got to be able to push enough information to the front line so they can make an easy, quality decision that doesn't stress them out, right? Because they feel empowered to make it and do the right thing. And it makes the client feel like we know who they are and our relationship with them is important.
Of course, the issue at the heart of Vox are leader preferences for how and when they work with vendors. So, Kate, what are the first signals you look for in vendor partnerships that may imply they can help you navigate industry challenges?
Adaptability and proactivity, operational understanding, do they know who my business is? And flexibility and execution. So every vendor says, yes, we can do that. Sure, we integrate. But I think it's important that you really understand what that timeline is. And ultimately, I look for vendors and partners, really. I like to call them partners that understand our business and understand how we operate. And they have the agility and the shared commitment to really grow together and come out with not just an MVP, but a great product. One vendor that I particularly like, and their approach is different. I like how they romanced me a bit, but I went to Gladly. They're a contact center. You like them too? Okay, good.
Hey, if you like them, then I like them. This is how this works. So shout out to Gladly.
Well, I quite like them because, they didn't do the hard sell first. They brought you into the community. They sent me to a conference, and there was a bunch of other leaders there, and that were using their product, and some weren't. And so, as a true networker, they understood that, I was going to be asking those questions. And it was great. I mean, it was really great. I just got back from a conference with them last week. And, I think that vendors that have understand that art and that dance around what it means to be a true community and partner is so appreciated for the client. But also, I'm an adult. I like to learn in different ways, right? I don't always like to look at your pitch deck. I'd prefer to be in person talking to someone, especially as a CX executive. I mean, that's what our secret sauce is the ability to connect with people.
Oh, good for them. That is strong. Talk to our customers. Vet us out that way.
I know, right?
It's pretty bold.
I know. I everyone's going to take that idea, I'm sure.
While we're on the subject of optimism and great experiences with Gladly, let's continue that trend of bringing in technology and let's grow. So let's look at scaling with maybe that same level of optimism. As brands are growing across channels and perhaps for some companies, international growth now, what operational foundations shouldn't be overlooked?
Talent development. I mean, it involves talent development. I mean, you might have someone that can operate at your, $500,000 revenue, but do you have some, one part of the world, but do you have that global team that can take you to that next level? Using project and program managers together and product managers, I think that they all have that special expertise that they can lean into, use them wisely, because they're super wicked smart and they can help you and guide you, and that's their specialty. Sustainability initiatives also depend on QA and efficiency at manufacturing sites. And what I mean by that is, I'm talking about apparel only because that's what but I know that this can apply to multiple sectors. But, you've got to make sure you've got great manufacturers, and you've got to make sure that the quality is controlled because you want that execution to be fast once it leaves there. I think it's really important that you have a scalable infrastructure, and, that's critical, right? Because you've got to get that right in order to propel that growth. Customer experience consistency. So what I mean by that is, are you a direct to consumer and a brick and mortar? Do you have a full omni experience? Is it consistent if you go into the store? Is it consistent if you live chat? Is it consistent if you call? What does that look like? And so I think that's important, and you can lose client faith and loyalty there. So your supply chain and fulfillment strategy, that needs to be dialed too. You've got to get your stuff to the client in a reasonable way. And I would say, I think in the age of Amazon, we're all used to getting it same day, right? Or even the next day. So it's important we remain competitive there. Having data-driven decision making. I don't think I need to say much as a leader to other leaders about that. And then empowered and aligned teams. So if you're not aligned on the same outcome, I don't define that as success.
As we think about growing out our technology stacks, I've got to imagine there's some amount of preparation. You can't just throw a bunch of new tools, packet things together, and hope that you can just grow an organization that way. And yet evaluating tech debt in still waters is probably hard enough of a task. So do you set a period for yourself when you look at your current systems and evaluate whether or not they're even ready to be scaled for larger volume?
I mean, you should have a team in place. I mean, typically there's program and product and project managers around all of that in tech or digital. But, I think your AI and cybersecurity needs to be dialed. You got to have that plan together, and preparing the stack for that innovation is critical. And also weighing the risk. Seamless system integration. Is it a fit for our ecosystem? Is it right? Or is there a lot of tinkering that has to happen in order to get that? And then change management and workforce adoption. I mean, I don't think you can ever discount how long it will take for the team to adopt or even believe in what you're doing if you don't keep them along the ride.
No, I mean, and this isn't the first time that talent development has popped up. Clearly, it's a priority for you to think about. How do you approach upskilling your team when the retail landscape is already changing so quickly?
Well, I don't think you can ever stop connecting the customer feedback to the upskilling. Feedback comes in many forms, right? Positive, they should know that. when you should publicly blast that for everybody to see, and then privately share maybe where there's been some mistakes or opportunities to continue to improve. I think it's challenging of not having product, especially in this space. So I'm going to use a contact center, for example. Not every contact center has the full breadth of product, so they can't touch it, see it, feel it, and understand, okay, is the quality good? Is it not? Is the color falling off? I don't know. And so I think that's difficult and can be a challenge when, especially when most manufacturing is overseas. And then you definitely need a specialized data expertise within the operations team. You might have really great leaders that understand your space, but that seems to be a skill set I would definitely need either externally or internally, depending on what your pool of people is.
I always like to wrap up by shining a light on some big wins of our guests. Those war stories where you put out a fire or build something uniquely difficult. Could you share a story where your team faced significant hurdles and how you overcame them?
Do you want a funny one, or do you want, I have one early in my career that I could share with you that I think is quite funny.
Oh, please.
I remember I was a young leader at Nordstrom, and, you've heard about the tire returning story, which is true. We had sold these gaucho pants, which I'm not sure, Richard, if they sold those at Abercrombie, but they were just below the knee. They were cotton. They had a higher waist you could fold down, and they were relatively inexpensive. And if you didn't wash them first and wear them and set the dye, there was a potential that maybe the dye rubbed off on you. Now, I'm not saying that happened. God, I hope I don't get sued or anything for saying something like this. Oh my God. But this woman came in with her toilet seat, and she wanted to show us how the dye rubbed off on the back of her legs. And when she sat down and stained her toilet seat, she was pretty mad. She was pissed. She wanted a new toilet seat. And my team didn't really have they were relatively, I would say, new in their career, and they probably didn't have the life experience to navigate through the toilet seat situation. I happened to come in at 11 o'clock that day. I could tell something was happening at the counter, right? This is back when you had customer service counters and stuff. Those were the olden days, right? There's this back room, and that they came over. They're like, Kate, I don't know what to do. I'm like, well, how much is a toilet seat? Just give her some money and tell her to go to Home Depot if that's what she wants. This is that easy. Or do we need to go get a toilet seat for her? What does she want? Well, how do I get the money, Kate? I'm like, I don't care. Just take it out of the register. We'll figure that out. But it seems like an easy solution. And can you, in the meantime, let's look up how much a toilet seat is, so we're not promising her this $1,000 gold toilet seat. So I can't remember. I think we gave her $100 or something. And she came back later that day and gave me the change and the receipt. And she was like, I'm so happy that you gave me a new toilet seat. Bless your heart, and got her a new pair of pants. And she was happy. She said, oh my gosh, these pants worked. I don't know what happened. And, I think it maybe wasn't a product issue. Who knows? She could have said something and it was wet and the dye rubbed off. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I think this toilet seat was $35. And I hope she shared that story versus saying we didn't know what to do, because in the end, it was $35 worth our time just to get the girl a new toilet seat. And I think that what I don't forget that story, because I think it's all about empowering people and living through this, positive way of troubleshooting with a client. And in the end, just putting yourself in their shoes and doing the right thing. I don't think you'll ever get in trouble for just doing the right thing.
One more for you, Kate, because there are senior managers watching who will become the next cohort of leaders. What career advice would you offer them?
I would say, for one, what served me really well is mastering the art of influence and storytelling. How you tell that story and accompany that with data and pull that golden thread through the journey with the client is important. Stay curious and adaptable. I think that, retail is what I found myself in. Strategy and innovation is what's kept me going and fueled me and propelled my growth as a leader in my career. And I've always stayed curious. And I've encouraged my team to always think about not where we are today, but what we could be. Develop people, just not processes. If you've got a strong business sense and you're highly empathetic, you've got to have a really strong balance in the middle. It's really important that you continue to stay balanced there. And then, know when to step back. I think that, that's still something that I'm continuing to learn. And sometimes you got to let people trip a little so they learn that lesson. And I think that there's so much value in that, coming to that conclusion themselves than telling them. At the end of the day, the leadership isn't about your title. It really is. It's how you serve your team and the impact that you leave behind.
That's all the time we have. Thank you for joining us, Kate. We'll be back next week as we uncover more of the evolving retail landscape and understand the consensus voice of those leaders, because above all else, VOX wins.